Conversation is still on setting the agenda for the new cabinet. I've been speaking with Mr. Jide Ojo, who's a development consultant and author. And now we're joined by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Adeleke Agbola. He joins us from Lagos. Mr. Agbola, thank you very much for joining us on Politics Today. I understand he had to go through some traffic challenges to make it down here.
Thank you for having me, Adam.
Before we go into the cabinet issue specifically, we're taking them state by state. Mr. Ojo had raised an issue, which is with regards to the legality or necessity of a minister of state. What do you think about that?
Well, it is, on paper, it is beautiful to compare Nigeria with United States to say, oh, there are 15 ministers. But you have a constitution in Nigeria that says you must have, from each state of the federation, at least one person as a minister. So automatically, with 36 states and Abuja, you are talking about at least 37 ministers in the first system. So the issue is that the president has there's nowhere in the constitution that is limited the number of ministers that the president can have. The president is in command of his cabinet. He knows how many men or women he needs to be able to run the country well. So he has a partial carte blanche as to how many ministers he can have.
Now, beyond the number of ministers,
he's also circumscribed.
Beyond the number of ministers, I was asking, based on what Mr. Ojo had said, is it legal and is it necessary to have a minister of state?
Yeah, that's why I was coming to. The president determines how many ministers we have and what designation is going to give to them. The only constitutional provided for minister is the Attorney General and Minister of Justice. That's the only one that is created by the Constitution. Others. So the issue whether I call them minister of state or cabinet minister is a function for the president. In the US, that we have mentioned, for example, sometimes some positions are given cabinet status by the president of the United States. Sometimes the director of the CIA is made a cabinet member. So there is no law as such. In Nigeria, there is nothing legal about cabinet state or cabinet minister. It's just a matter of designation. The important thing is that they are ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So there is nothing constitutional about that.
Very well then, let's continue our assessment of the ministers based on their qualifications and their portfolios, as well as looking at the tasks ahead of them. We had just talked about the ministries of labor and employment, as well as defense. So now let's talk about the Ministry of Education. The Minister of Education is Tahir Maman. He is a professor of law, as a senior advocate of Nigeria and a former director general of the Nigeria Law School. He has a minister of state who is Tanko Sununu. His qualification is obstetrics and gynecology. He is a former chairman, House Committee on Healthcare Services. What do you think about these two men and their qualification with regards to the portfolios which they now have?
Well, the substantive Minister of Education, as rightly pointed out, is a professor of law, Tahir Maman, has been a dean of the Faculty of Law, has been Director General of the Nigerian Law School, and is a senior advocate of Nigeria. By whatever parameters you want to judge him, he is eminently qualified to be the Minister of Education. The other gentleman who is the Minister of State, Mr. Sulu, is also qualified because the truth is that it's a political post. Being a minister is a political decision. And much as we would love to have people who are conversant with the particular portfolio they are given, the issue really is whether you have somebody who has the administrative acumen to manage a large organization. That's what you need. It doesn't matter whether it's a medical doctor, whether it's a pharmacist, whether it's it is immaterial. The issue really is that does he have the mental competence?
So coming from 8 years with a Minister of Education who says that he had no idea how to run that office, and then seeing our education system decline just about on every level, and then now UNESCO reports that there are 20 million children out of school. What do you think that, or how do you think that the two men in charge now can address the issue of the decline in the education system?
Well, they've got their jobs cut for them because, as I've said, Professor Tai Mama is eminently qualified, and he knows the problem of education in this country. He's from the northern part of this country. He knows the number of people who are out of school. And it's just a matter of managing the scarce resources that is available to any minister. Any public officer now has very limited funds to manage. And the issue really is that the efforts being made in the university environment, for example, to make the students pay at least a portion of the fees to run universities. Most of the schools are decrepit, they are run down, and we need money to do so. So these ministers, we must find a way to talk to the people, to talk to the students, to talk to the lecturers that we are in a crisis. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Wherever you go, whether you're in private universities, you'll be shocked at the level of poverty in the school's environment. I went to University of Ife, and I went back some few years ago, and I'm surprised the hostess are just in a very bad situation. So we need somebody. We need them not to come up and say things are bad, and that they must also give us their plan on how to turn things around. And then we have to appeal to ASU and all the other academic teaching environments that this is not a time to go on strikes at the drop of a hat. They must work together with these gentlemen to make sure that Nigerian education can be a thing that we can be proud of. We used to be a net exporter of education. People used to come from Ghana. They used to come from South Africa to come and study in Nigeria. Now, even Benin Republic is taking students away from us. It's really very bad.
Oh, let me come to Mr. Ojo now. You have, I think, said some things on the decay in the education system, if I recall correctly, and I think you're also concerned about 8 years lost and the level of decay for that reason. Do you agree with him with regards to the qualifications of the Minister and Minister of States now, and what can the next ministers, what can these ministers do to address the issues that are bedeviling the education sector?
Yeah, Professor Tahir has said, is eminently qualified by every parameter conceivable. He was former Dean of Student Affairs at University of Maiduguri, former Dean of Faculty of Law, former DG Nigeria Law School, Professor of Law. So he combines law and academia, so he is a senior advocate of Nigeria, so everything to boot. But even the Minister of State, medical doctor, you can't take it away. The issue is about, would there be proper funding? And if the funding is not coming from government, what do you do? I went to University of Lagos, and I tell you for free, when the late Abdulkarim Adisa, who was the Minister of Works, came to our school, he went from some of the hostels and he was almost weeping. He said, and we are condemning these students of unrest. How can they rest in this kind of very dilapidated structure? As at that time, I'm talking of early 90s. So you can just imagine how the rot has festered over the decades. Now, there's practically no federal universities that is not affected, or even the states. Many of them depend on TED fund to fund, the capital projects of their schools. But can we continue to make egg without breaking an can we make an omelette without breaking an egg? ASU does not want any increase in any increase in tuition. But at the same time, the resources available to government is very scarce. And this is why I also objected to the huge number of ministers we have, because funding will now be worse off. How do you share the little resources among about 34 ministries now from 28? We had 28 under Buhari, so it has increased to 34. It's like having 3 children. You can't feed them very well. You now decide to marry more wives and have more children. So how will everybody get a fair share? And education, let me shock you, Terry. There are 22 agencies and departments under education. 22, the highest of all the ministries. Do we need that number? Which is why it will have been ideal to have a lean and smart government where you even have less than that 28, so that the little funding can go around. You can effectively increase, funding for health, funding for education, funding for defense, funding for security. But situations where you have now increased exponentially the number of ministries, without, when we know that our debt portfolio now, we are spending about 96% of our revenue to service debt. So where do you want to get the funding to fund education? So that is the dilemma. How do you ensure proper funding without increasing tuition and even the so-called student loans that the president think is a silver bullet, which they said will take effect from September this year? I do not, given the law that I've read, that to anybody wanting to get a loan under that student loan law, it's like a camel passing through the eye of the needle.
I think that's been reviewed. I think that's...
If it has been reviewed as the president signed...
It is being reviewed.
It's being reviewed, but Senate is on recess. And they are coming back maybe in September or October. So, and they said the takeoff date is September, because you are talking of about 6% interest rate on loan. You are talking of 2 years postgraduate, when people will just be out of national service for the repayment to start. How do you not? You don't want to increase tuition. You are saying that you are making available student loan, but this loan is not friendly.
Well, we're almost out of time now, but let's look at perhaps, if not the most important aspect of what we may discuss here tonight. It is the economy. And for those who know Mr. Wale Edun, some say there's no need to question his qualifications. He's a former finance commissioner for Lagos State. So, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Adeleke Agbola, let's talk about Mr. Edun and the responsibilities ahead of him. What do you think that he should, how do you think, rather, that he should go about addressing the ailing economy that we found ourselves?
Well, for Mr. Wale Edun, who is a well-tested technocrat, we know him very well in Lagos. It's our own expert from here to the federal government. He has the brain, he has the capacity, he has the work rate to be able to do something good. But for him to do so, he may have to clash with the politicians in government. Because for us to be to move forward, we must cut down the waste in government. We have too many people. My co-discussant was talking about having a lean and smart government. We don't have it now. We have a bloated government. And you have to show the people that there is actually an economic crisis in Nigeria. Mr. Wale Edun is not just the Minister of Finance, he's also the coordinating minister for the economy. So he must go where other people's there to trade. We have the Rosario report, which has not yet been implemented. It has to be implemented. My co-discussor just mentioned that there are 22 parastatals under the Ministry of Education. It's not necessary. Well, what is the Speaker or the National Assembly doing with about 50-something special advisors? It is unnecessary. We cannot be telling people that the economy is bad, and then we are having people just being at their portfolios that have no impact on the people. So the economy is in a very bad situation, in a very bad shape. Before I left my office for this interview, I asked my staff, what do you think we should do? And they said that the streets are very, very mean. People have no money. Of course, government cannot put money, cannot be paying salary to everybody, but you have to provide a conducive environment. You must make sure that things are functioning. You must have a streamlined tax regime. Tax people who need to be taxed. All those people flaunting the champagne, the gold they are purchasing, they must be taxed appropriately. You can spend your money anyhow, but the government must take its own shares.
Well,
and then when that money is collected, people must know that it's being used for purposes that are for the benefit generally of the people. So Mr. Edu has a lot of work to do. He's capable, we know that, but he needs to help both with the politicians.
Okay, as we wrap up this conversation, I'd just like to take a closing statement on this matter, because one other aspect is the concern on how we can raise revenue. And the World Bank already says that Nigeria must utilize its resources if it is going to improve its economy and attract foreign direct investments.
Well, very good advice. That's why I trust Bondele Alake will be able to do well in Ministry of Solid Mineral. There is a lot of leakages there. You know, senior advocates Femi Falana spoke about it on your channels. Was it yesterday or two days ago? You know, the leakages in the solid mineral sector, the leakages in the oil and gas sector is enormous. The oil theft alone, if you are able to block oil theft, I tell you, Terry, we don't need to borrow money. We will not need to borrow money. Then the leakages among the government-owned enterprises, NPA not remitting enough, NIMASA not remitting enough. We know what happened with JAMB, the previous registrar of JAMB. Nobody knew JAMB was a revenue-generating agency until Professor Ishak Oloyede got there and is remitting billions back to Federation account, even FRS. So the issue of Treasury single account, the effectiveness of Treasury single account, the issue of, you know, ensuring that all the revenue generating agencies remit maximally, you know, most of what they collect on behalf of government, and this idea of a money deposit bank keeping federal government money and loaning money, the same money back to government should stop. So we need a complete overhaul of that. So between the Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of Economy and Minister of Budget and National Planning, they have their work cut out. Don't even forget that we are approaching September, and it is expected that 2024 budget should be ready before the National Assembly will come back from recess, so that it can be passed and we can maintain the January to December financial year that Buhari gave us as a legacy. Mr.
Jide Ojo, I'd like to thank you very much for your time.
Mr.
Jide Ojo is a development consultant. And I also had Mr. Adeleke Agbola, who's Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you very much for your time, and sorry for the stress you had to go through to make it to the program today.